All right, I'll get my screen shared and we'll go ahead and get started. How's everyone doing? All right, got that set up. Let's put my face in the corner. There we go. All right. So yeah, for those of you that haven't joined these before, we're going to be testing community requested strategy BardFX. He calls it the compensation play. I just call it the Nowick strategy. You'll see why in a little bit. It's a community requested strategy someone shared. This guy BardFX, he's got 13K I think on YouTube. Supposedly claims he's made 700K trading the strategy. Pretty young. I saw some other videos where he's saying he's doing like 50K months recently. So obviously pretty bold claims. And the whole goal of these videos is to put the strategy to the test. See if we can kind of break it down into a mechanical rule sets, all the different components, and actually test it with an FX replay. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. And for those of you watching live, I just shared the link in the chat. For those of you watching the recording, it should be in the link in the description. So what exactly is this Nowick strategy? We will kind of go over it in the PDF, but basically there's a couple it's honestly a pretty simple model, which I think a lot of you will enjoy, but there are quite a few invalidation criteria to make sure that he's filtering out some lower probability trades. So what exactly are no-wick candles or wickless candles? You can use either one. It's really a candle that as soon as it opens, it just immediately goes one direction and it's leaves no wick, literally, on one side of the candle, whether it's a bearish candle or a bullish candle. And I've actually started to see a few different traders using these candles as either like draws, like kind of magnets to draw price back into. Bard essentially explains that it creates like an imbalance. Similar to what you guys might see with ICT's fair value gaps, where often price needs to kind of rebalance those gaps. So it can serve as like a kind of magnet for price to come back to initially, but then can also serve as price can react from that point and continue in the direction of the trend. So that's exactly how he uses them. Obviously, they're a little less common than fair value gaps, so a little bit different there, but it's kind of similar kind of concepts. And then most of you should be familiar with general kind of market structure, whether it's market structure breaks, we're in a downtrend and we shift to the upside, or we're in an uptrend, we shift to the downside. And you can use market structure breaks, which is kind of a shift in trend, or break in structure, which is kind of a continuation in the trend. But the one thing I do want to kind of footnote here is that based on Bard's videos, he will often use like the bodies of these kind of swing points instead of the wicks when he looks at market structure. So the graphic here shows that it would be a closure below this wick, but Bard, if he was watching this, he would say as soon as price closes below this kind of body right here, he would say, okay, that's a break to the downside, and he would start looking for shorts at that point with the most recent trend. So a little nuance there. I see most people use the wicks, but he generally will use the bodies to determine his structure. And then what exactly like are we trading? So he primarily trades M15, and he's based in Sweden. And recent video came out a couple days ago. He clarified he really only trades like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sweden time, and this lines up with kind of an hour before London Open, basically through all of London session. So 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. New York time, or 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. London time. So this is like the core hours he trades. He also said you could consider testing like the second half of Asia. I think he said like the first 3 hours of Asia, like don't even worry about. And early New York session could also be good. There's just some other potential pockets of time that he said you could potentially also test the strategy, but this is the core window that he trades. And then his main three assets are AU, UJ, and GU as kind of his main three. And then in some recent videos, looking at his watch list, he's also got AJ, I don't even know the USD, CHO, the Swiss US pair, and then odd against it. This is like a newer pair actually that he just started adding recently because one of his community members started testing it. So several different pairs you can test. With this strategy being M15, sometimes he'll bounce around. There may not be a trade on every single asset, but he can kind of flip around and see which one is presenting. So again, very simple entry model. It's literally a two-step process. You're literally waiting for a no-wick candle in the direction of the trend. So if price is moving up, you want to see a bullish no-wick candle. They're going to be looking for a retest. If price is in a downtrend, you're going to be looking for a bearish no-wick candle to come and retest for a short. In terms of identifying these candles, the nice thing, now that we've got custom indicators on FX Replay, actually worked with the dev and got a custom indicator, no candles, no wick candles is an indicator you guys can use directly in FX Replay to quickly identify these candles, or in TradingView, I think X Ghosts wickless candles is something that Bard will use for TradingView. So either of those can help you really quickly identify these candles. And yeah, Caesar mentioned no wick on one time frame could be a wick on another time frame. That's true, and we'll actually that'll come into play a little bit later in terms of which ones do you prioritize. But in terms of this, he's using M15 primarily to identify these no wick candles. And really the kind of main thing is he's looking for a relatively like quick retest, like within 9 candles. So after this no wick candle prints, the retest needs to happen within 9 candles after that. So it can't be like super, move on a long time and then retest it way later. He's looking for like a pretty quick retest in order to take the trade. In terms of the stop loss and take profit, he basically will use the structural level for the stop loss, and counterpoint to the previous page where I said he was using bodies for the stops, he pretty much always uses the wicks. And then he says he'll add a little breathing room or buffer to the stop loss, which he says like 2 to 3, sometimes 4 pips. I just said go with 3 pips if you want to keep it mechanical. So take the swing low and add like 3 pips for a long, and then for a short, just take the swing high, add like 3 pips for a short. 1-to-1 take profit 90% of the time. He has showed in some of his videos there could be some cases. He's obviously been trading this model for a while where you could potentially hold the runners longer, but he said starting out, just stick with 1-to-1 for take profit, and you're good to go. He doesn't cover this in his kind of main video he goes over here that he talks over the strategy, but watching some of his live streams, he will often draw out like just basic support and resistance levels on the chart. So price came down, wicked this level, reacted strongly to it. Once it flipped it reacted again. So we're seeing like lots of reactions around this level, and so it's an added confluence. Like in this case, we had a long here where there was a no wick. We took the trade. Our stop loss was like on the other side of the support zone. In this case, this is like an added confluence that price is kind of more protected because of this support and resistance level. And then also, if there's imbalances in favor of the trade, such as fair value gap draws or other no wick candles, that's another added confluence as well. So you could track those with tags in FX replay, maybe have like more A+ setups when there's confluences present. In terms of other rules and considerations, there's a lot of invalidations. It's a very simple entry model, but in order to get it to work, instead of taking every single time there's a no wick retest, he does have some invalidations that you need to make sure you take into account. So pretty much always avoids news, U.S. news specifically. I mean, I was testing it, AU, and like Australia news really doesn't matter that much most of the time. So like US red folder news from Forex factories are really the main thing you want to avoid. And within 1 or 2 hours, I was saying, you probably want to not take a trade right before red folder news. You want to avoid no wick entries at the form of the structural swing higher low, and I have an image here for that. So he said right here there's a no wick candle, but it formed like on the swing low of this move, and he said you want to avoid this because oftentimes like where do you put your stop loss? And maybe like way down here at this previous structural low. So we're going to be avoiding no wick retests if they form on the swing points kind of in structure. He'd rather see it like along the way. So that's kind of another nuance. What else? So he said his general rule in his video, if you watch it, he said like avoid trades when there's an imbalance against the trade, which is like a very broad statement. Probably it requires a lot of discretion, subjectivity. So to make it a little more mechanical, the way I interpreted and started testing with this is if we have a no wick candle and a fair value gap like beyond our stop loss, kind of within the recent price structure, we'll avoid those trades because essentially there is a draw beyond our stop loss, so it makes those trades a little lower probability. And we'll probably see a few examples when we're testing that. This doesn't happen super often, but he did say if there's like 2 no wick candles within like 2 to 4 candle, like kind of right after each other, like which one do you use? He like went over an example in his video. You could either split it up into like 2 different entries, 1 on each candle, maybe half risk on each. You could obviously the same math. You could enter a single trade in the midpoint. It didn't happen a whole lot in my testing, so you can kind of play around with this. But the easier thing to do is like if you're trading M15 obviously, but sometimes an M15 no wick candle also is on the 30-minute or the 1 hour. And so if you have multiple in a row, he said prioritize the higher time frame. So if there's an M15 and an M30 no wick candle, prioritize the 30-minute one because that's higher time frame has a higher probability. And then the last thing I want to mention, this is also not something he talks in his video, but he went over on his lives, is sometimes he will use a little discretion and tighten his stop loss so he doesn't have to like his take profit doesn't have to go through a support or resistance. So quick example on that here. Downtrend, Nowick candle, we had a previous support level down here that if you use the usual stop loss above this kind of swing high with some breathing room, your one-to-one take profit would have to go through the support zone, which is a little lower probability. So I've seen him in some of his like live stream examples. He will intentionally tighten his stop loss in certain cases like this so that he, kind of gets that TP at the support zone instead of requiring a price to move through it. So this may or may not come up in our testing today, but it is a little nuance that can obviously be the difference between a losing trade and a winning trade in certain cases. So something to look for. So we'll look at a few examples. As usual, got the trade checklist for you guys here. Again, not the craziest, most complex model. The biggest thing is like there are several invalidations we'll have to just keep in mind as we're going through these. But overall, it's a pretty simple trade model. So let's look at a couple examples and then we'll dive into FX Replay. So downtrend right here, again, I have this indicator. This is within FX Replay. So I'll show you guys how to pull this indicator up. It clearly marks all of these Nowick candles for you. You don't have to zoom in and see was there a wick or not. Just clearly, shows you what was there. We entered our trading session, I think somewhere around here. We're going to be testing the same kind of 8 to 2 Sweden time window that he trades. Nowick candle right here. We got a retest kind of within, or I think there's like 8 candles or something like that. So Nowick candle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 candles, we had a retest. I believe this candle was like also like a 30-minute candle. This is why we prioritize this one. So you enter on a retest, stop at the swing high plus a little breathing room, one-to-one take profit, and this is a case where we had the resistance as an added confluence. You can see we're getting a lot of reactions to this level. It even rejected the trade down in our favor after we got tapped in. So nice one-to-one short there using his model. And we had a couple shorts in this case where price is moving to the downside. We had a Nowick candle here print, a nice retest within a couple candles. We did have both a fair value gap and a Nowick candle, a little bit higher, but not beyond our stop loss. So this is like the important kind of nuance with that. If our stop loss was maybe right here and we had the fair value gap and Nowick, past our stop loss, we wouldn't want to take that trade. But in this case, we could take it using the swing high plus a little buffer, caught a nice win there. And then same thing, move to the downside. We did have some fair value gaps against the trade, which actually kind of helped reject it back down. But no Nowick candles in this kind of recent move. So again, another retest, swing high plus a little breathing room, just one-to-one take profit. So pretty simple entry model. I hope for those of you that have, he actually, specifically in his videos talks a lot of like, man, ICT trading uses like 20 different confluences just to get like one trade. And so he, likes to say that his strategy, the simplicity of it helps a lot. So you can just easily, analyze a chart and find the trades pretty quickly. So like we usually do, somebody in the chat give me a date in the last 3 to 5 years. I will pick like a totally random point in time and give this a test. So I'll get this set up. BardFX, Nowick, stream AU, and we're gonna stick with AU today. I'll probably test out another pair later, but I've been testing AU for most of this. So somebody in the chat give me a random date in the last like 3 to 5 years. We'll just start like a random point in time that somebody shares. January 2022. What day in January? The start of January. Was good. All right, January 1st, 2022. All right, 23rd. January 23rd, 2022. All right, that was a Sunday, so we'll end up starting on Monday. And yeah, we'll kind of test as much as we can, get it set up. And I'll show you guys the indicators that I have set up with this. I'll create a new layout first and foremost. I always like to make a new layout for every backtest I do. So this is stream, rename it. We'll delete all of our previous drawing tools. So a couple indicators that I have on the chart here. This Nowick candles is actually a custom indicator that I was able to work with our dev and our ChatGPT. So if you guys didn't realize within FX Replay, I'll just show you guys how you can find this real quick. So Nowick candles by me, Ox Fibonacci. This is the indicator that I'm using that you can get all these to show up really nicely on the chart. They print kind of in real time. If you guys have other indicators that you want to add to your charts, we now have the capability to add custom indicators with this editor. And within the Discord, there's an FXR script chat that we have a GPT that's kind of trained to help. You can give it an indicator from PineScript or something else, and it'll kind of give you at least something that's close. And then if you need a little more tweaking, that's when you can kind of talk in the Discord and say, hey, like I've got an indicator that's pretty close, but I need to tweak a couple things. Can you help me out? And they've got great support to do that. So really cool. We can just pop this indicator in here now. In terms of the session window, I just have this session indicator New York by FX Replay, and I have 2 to 8 as kind of the window that I'm trading to line up with his 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sweden time. So pretty much London session, a little 1 hour before open. So I have just this marked out with kind of a gray shaded area for our kind of trading session. And that's it. So we have everything we need. The only other thing I'll be using is this go-to, and I have it set to go to 2 a.m. Every day, which lines up with kind of the start of our trading window. So at any point in the stream, feel free to reach out if you guys have questions, but let's see if we can catch some trades and give this a shot. So I'll zoom in a little bit more. So price is moving to the downside, clear downtrend right now. We're definitely going to be focusing on shorts. There's a fresh Nowick candle. However, if we get a retest of this candle, I'll quiz you guys real quick. Should this be a trade that we take based on kind of what I shared with you guys in the PDF? If we get a retest of this Nowick candle right here, and let me know why or why not. Quiz you guys a little bit today. So if we get a retest of this Nowick candle right here, based on what I shared in the strategy PDF, would this be a trade we should take, yes or no? Okay, we're not too sure. There's only 2 options. You can share or not. Okay. All right. So we got somebody said no, and then I got a question I'll answer too. So yeah, a couple of you said no, which is correct. So even though we do have a downtrend, we do have a Nowick right here. One of the invalidations that we talked about was if there is a large fair value gap and a Nowick imbalance past the stop loss, there's going to be lower probability. Guess what? Nowick's up here, big fair value gap. This is exactly what he's talking about. Price is likely to draw up here and maybe all the way back up to here. We also have some all the way up here. So this is just a lower probability trade. Doesn't mean it can't work out. If we were to take this, we would probably use, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. This also kind of formed at the swing point. This may be like 2 invalidations that you guys talked about. So the other one that we mentioned was not using the swings. This is kind of like two different invalidations, also formed at the swing point, plus we have imbalances past it. So definitely a couple of different reasons not to take this one. And yeah, you would have probably eaten a loss because of that. So that's why the invalidations are helpful. Same thing, we still have the fair value gap and draw above, and we didn't really come in. We kind of front ran the level as well, so just no trade in this specific session. We also have a bullish Nowick here, but the trend is down, so obviously not going to trade against the trend. You're going to be looking for only shorts. If price is trending down, there's just no trades this specific trading session. So I just want to answer a quick question from Wally. They mentioned that. So I'll close this real quick. When they were placing a trade, the place order dialog couldn't be moved. That is actually something they're trying to fix real quick. You just have to select the text up here. I do all the time. Like it's you usually select the middle, but just click the actual text, and you should be able to move it around. That's just something. I think they are gonna try to fix that, but just so you can still move it. Hopefully that answers your question, Wally. And we'll go to the next session. All right. So what are we in right now? We've had a couple retests of Nowicks previously. The most recent structure, we are technically still in a downtrend. Using this kind of body high, we have not yet closed past this. So no real structure. We've moved down, moved up, but we haven't broken anything yet. So technically downtrend, but we don't really have any active Nowick candles. Now we have broken structure to the upside. Again, using the bodies is kind of how he would define this. So move down, move up, close past this body. Now we would be looking for longs, but we don't have any Nowick candles. And this is where the indicator is super helpful. You can, honestly, if you're just like trying to do efficient backtesting, you can just literally play price forward, pause it when a Nowick presents, and analyze at that point. Okay, have we broken down? Yes, we have closed back below this previous swing high, or this move up. So we would be looking for a short. there are not. There is a Nowick back up here that could potentially still be a draw on price, but there's not really a big fair value gap as well. So I think this would be fine to take. Wasn't formed at a swing point. So if we come up and test this, let's just play price forward to see if we would have gotten retest. I usually play price forward and see like, okay, would have there been entry, because you can test a little more efficiently instead of placing the order and it doesn't fill. So we do have a pretty strong downtrend, and now we're kind of at the end of our session. You could continue testing a little further if you like to trade into the first part of New York session, but I'm going to be sticking to his specific kind of 2-day window. So we just wouldn't have any trades this day. We'll kind of go to the next day and see what would have happened at these levels. It looks like there was a bit of reaction, did kind of come back down, so potentially could have caught a trade if he had some breathing room on this first one, but just wasn't within our trading window, so we're not going to take it. All right, so coming to this next day, we have price breaking down, Nowick to the upside. We do have another, this one was actually already tapped, so the only Nowick that's still up there is right there. So I think we could take this if we get a retest. However, this was farmed at the swing points, so invalidates that. And you can see this is where the invalidations are really important with this strategy, because if you take every single Nowick retest, you probably don't even have much of an edge, to be honest. And this is where making sure you use the invalidations properly is going to help kind of mitigate a lot of stuff. So let's see if this is a potential one. Again, I would argue that this is also kind of a swing point. We shifted down, moved up, moved down. So this is kind of, again, kind of goes against his rule of not using the swing points. I promise we will find a trade soon, but I probably wouldn't take this because it was kind of on that swing point. Looks like it probably would have been a loss. Now we have shifted to the upside. So we could potentially see if we get a retest here. So we got a retest, so there will be a trade here, or potentially. Let's just make sure we don't have, so it wasn't formed during the swing points. Let's see which one of these. So we had a 30 minutes Nowick candle right here. We also had M15, so this is where we have two options for our Nowick candle. The 30 minutes generally is going to be higher probability. So this is kind of that unique case where we could either just go with the 30 minutes, we could kind of split the difference between these trades and just enter kind of at the midpoint. But since we do have a higher time frame one, we'll just go with that, just to keep it simple. So this is our M30 Nowick stop loss at the swing low, 11.2 pips. This is how I do the breathing room. So you can see on your position to 11.2 pips. We'll add like 3 pips to that, so 14.2. Just doing that, and then simple 1-to-1 risk to reward. And before we take the trade too, I do think we probably want to add some spreads just to make this a little more realistic. So you can come into your settings. I was seeing like a 1 pip spread might be like kind of average for AU. Some brokers probably a little less, some brokers a little more. So whatever you're trading, make sure to check like what spreads you're actually going to be dealing with. But I think like 1 pip is like pretty reasonable based on kind of some averages that I was seeing. Just so we have a little more realistic testing, we'll add some spreads there as well. And then last thing before I place this, I just want to, at least do a quick reasonability test for any type of support and resistance. And this is really just like a visual thing, looking for where price has been kind of reacting in the past. So reactions, it's just like a general range. It's not like anything super mechanical, just visually looking for where like clear support and resistance zones. So this isn't really like a added confluence at this point. If our stop loss based on the trade was like kind of protected, that would potentially be a positive confluence, but it's just kind of at our stop loss. So it's not really protecting our trade. Not really any major resistance to the upside. We kind of have like a trend line move down, but that's pretty much it. So we'll take this trade just with no tags really. There's not really any anything that I wanted to tag. I usually was tagging like if there's support and resistance in favor against the trade, and then do we have like an imbalance in favor of the trade. This may be actually something we could tag. So we do have 2 Nowick candles in favor of this trade. So that could potentially be an added confluence if we get a retest. That price could still come up and tag these. So something that I would use for that, I use like pretty general tags because I test a lot of different models, but I was just using a factor 1. If there's an imbalance, you could also just type out like imbalance plus or IMB plus or something like that to indicate like a positive confluence. But we'll see. We obviously got tapped into this pretty immediately. We'll see what happens. Getting close to our take profit, front end a little bit. We'll just play price forward. Okay, so this is a case we had FOMC. He definitely would not have held through this. This was, a pretty long trade that we had to hold this for. And so, like, Again, his simple rule was just avoid news. And what I'm seeing from my testing is if you're in a trade for a long time and there's upcoming news, and it's still kind of around your break even price, it might be easier either just close the trade, a little bit early, or if you ended your session here, there's news later you hadn't hit TP and you want to be off the charts. Like a really simple application would just be go break even. So like we'll go ahead and record it as we actually would if we were testing this. Because of the spread, we did not hit our TP, but we'll just move our stop as you like probably would have if you were taking this live. So say this here, it came up pretty far and to take profits. We were pretty much at the end of our session, a little bit later here. So I just double click this, go break even. And this would have been a break even trade. Because it didn't quite hit our take profit, we got some news coming up. You don't want to hold through news because you just want to avoid news with this strategy. So first trade was break even, and we'll just go to the next session. Unfortunately, got pretty close to our take profit, but not quite. So let's see what else we have. Lots of Nowick candles to the downside, so pretty clear draws and fair value gaps to the upside. This could also be a potential, if we see a shift to the upside, longs could be nice here, but we probably want to avoid shorts when we have these kind of imbalances above us that could be drawing price higher. So personally going to be looking for either of them to get filled or potentially looking for a shift to the upside. Again, coming up into some news, there just wouldn't be a trade this day. And this is where when you have, a single pair, you're obviously not going to have too many trades. But if you have a watch list with 3 to 6 different pairs, you can kind of flip around and, you'll have trades probably more days than not when you're doing that. All right, so see what we have now. We've already got our Nowick that's unfilled, so there are some fair value gaps above, but no untapped Nowick. So we could take the short if we have a kind of proper structure. The most recent shift, I don't know, I could argue was kind of a break of this high. We kind of made a move down and closed back above this high. This is pretty choppy. Another thing that I was just playing around with, if you guys can't really clearly see structure on M15, is just quickly just go up a time frame and see what's playing out. So actually kind of looks like more of a downtrend on M30. So this is a little bit less clear, but I would say M15 and M30 are a little conflicting. But let's see, we'd have breakdown now. Okay, so now we could look for shorts. The only problem is this was kind of formed kind of at this swing high, so we would need kind of a fresh Nowick candle to give us an entry. There's one down here. Looks like we're really just shooting down at this point. So no test within our period. Go to the next session. I think when I was testing this, I was getting anywhere between 7 to 14 trades a month or something like that. So there's definitely not trades every single day. And yeah, there was not a clear uptrend for sure. Quick question before you go to the next trade. Adding negative risk to reward in the RR simulator. You can actually add custom levels in your simulator. So if you go into the top right in your RR simulator, hit add new or something like that, you could put 0.8, 0.7, 0.9 to see what the metrics would be with the negative RR. So you can add them. You just have to manually do it to get those stats. All right, so clear uptrend, lots of bullish Nowick candles. Let's see, all of them were M15s. So this is again a potential case where we have kind of 2 in line. We do have one down here that was already tapped at the swing points. So no huge imbalance. I think either of these being retested would be fine if we get it. This is formed at the swing point, so not interested in that one. But I think if we come and retest this one, this would be valid. Obviously, very clear uptrend. See if we can test it. I don't think we will have within 9 candles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, not within 9 candles. So if we'd come back and retested this, I think we would have had a trade. Very clear uptrend to the upside, but just wasn't within our 9 candles. So last chance right here. We could have potential one more shot. So new Nowick candle right here. It's kind of the very tail of our trading session, but we have regained this uptrend, closing kind of above the previous kind of swings to the downside. Nowick candle right here. So I think this would be fine to take. So using the kind of low 10.6 pips, we'll go 13.6 for a little breathing room. Right there, 1-to-1 take profits. Right there. Not really. Actually, we may have some support and resistance. So just looking at previous price structure, we obviously had kind of some reactions in this zone, right? Some reactions to the upside, downside, downside, a little bit of chop through then downside. So rough support. So I would say this is a trade that has kind of support and resistance in favor of the trade. So I'll use that as a tag. We also have a potential kind of resistance zone up here, but it's past our TP, so it doesn't really influence this trade. So we'll take this, place order, limit entry. I'm gonna use like SR plus. That's what I was using. So I like to use like plus and minus for positive and negative confluences. So support and resistance in favor of the trade is kind of a tag that I would use in this case. So we got tapped in and super quick TP. So this is like the perfect example, like when this model works well. This is literally what it looks like. You get a super strong reaction to the level, and it moves really nicely in continuation. But also we had added confluence with support and resistance, and from my testing, we'll see like these are probably going to be like your A+ setups when you have additional confluences in play. It was obviously at the very end, tail end of our trading window, but I think it was fine to take. All right, so no questions. We'll see what else we got. All right, so most recent break, you could potentially argue we had obviously huge downtrend. This is kind of our swing high here. So we haven't really formed a higher high yet. So still looking for a bearish move. Now we have broken structure back to the upside. So potentially could use these as retests unless we just continue going higher. Need to be aware of this news a little bit later. So let's see. We probably could take this because if we had a retest right here, our stop would be protected kind of below these lows. Let's see if we get a retest within 9 candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it has to be next candle. Okay, no retest within 9 candles, so we just wouldn't use this trade. And probably just wouldn't be a trade for this session because now we're kind of coming up. We're within, and we still got a little bit of time. Let's see if we can retest this. We're just going to trend it up. So fortunately, no fill on these trades. We are now like within about 2 hours of this news, so should be probably a little riskier. I probably wouldn't take it when I was testing. I think within like a couple hours of news, I just wasn't taking the trades because obviously on M15 it takes a little bit for the trades to play out. So I probably would just pass on this and say pass because upcoming news, like that. And for those of you that are new to FX Replay, if you are curious how to get these on your charts, you can just go to the news buttons, kind of come up to this filter. United States is the main red folder we care about. High impact, past and future. Close that, and that's going to give you these nice news indicators on the bottom of the chart. So we'll go to the next section and see what would have happened. So obviously news did kind of give a pretty big impulsive move down. Would have probably taken you out if you potential with breathing room, but again, just lower probability when you're upcoming into news. So probably better to just avoid those to save yourself from some added volatility. So let's see. Coming to this session, price action has been a little bit choppier, but we do have, I don't know if we are kind of watching price here. We did close above this swing high here, and more recently closed above kind of these swings. So I would say bullish trend in general. But we do have some untapped no wicks a little bit against us, plus some imbalance. So potential invalidations if we got a retest that I'm seeing with kind of his model. Obviously, like I said, just to help you guys visualize this. And you could also add FX Replay has a fair value gap FVG indicator. You could also add that on the chart if you want to see where these fair value gaps are a little easier. I've obviously been watching charts a lot. You could also extend them if you wanted to, but just to help you guys visualize, that's something you could also add to the charts for sure. But yeah, we have fair value gaps plus multiple bullish untapped no wicks below, so I probably wouldn't want to take this long. It might work out or not, so it saved us from a loss. So if we would have taken this, the retest would have been here, the recent swing low would have been here, 4.5 to 7.5 would have been a loss, yeah, because we even would have been really close with our 1 pip spread. I think we wouldn't have quite hit our TP. Would have been really close. But yeah, I think because of the draws to the downside, obviously we've tapped to both of these. Not quite the fair value gap, but there's just a lower probability when you have those kind of draws. But now if we retest these, I think this could be a little more likely. Although we do have some more news coming up. Probably not going to get a retest of these. It's a pretty big move up, so probably just wouldn't be any trade. But good job, kind of avoiding a potential loss by using our filters. And yeah, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask anything. I'll take a look at the chat for any questions you guys have. So let's see. We are in a general downtrend right here. This bearish Nowick was already tapped, so we can't really use it. It was also already kind of a swing point, so did get some nice reactions to these previously, but we've already tapped them, so not something we were interested in. So play price forward a little bit. This was formed on a swing point, so not really interested in that Nowick. Probably just won't have any trades this session, which is fine. Let's go to the next session. Clear downtrend, nice Nowick right here. I think we could take this if we get a retest of it. We're pushing pretty far away from it without a retest. So this could potentially be one. The only thing, again, with this retest right here, fair value gap plus Nowick above this, there's a bit of an imbalance. Again, could work out, but probably a little lower probability, and I would say this is also one that we probably would want to filter out just based on his filters. We've also kind of already swept this kind of low over here. So I wouldn't take this because the invalidations, we have Nowick plus imbalances above, but we'll see. Maybe it would have worked out. So in this case, it would have worked out. So that's also something if you want a higher trade frequency and you want to say, okay, I don't really care about the imbalances against the trade. I'm just going to take a little bit more. Maybe I'll have a little lower win rate, but higher trade frequency. But you could at least tag these trades with some sort of confluence. Like I don't even know where you would have put your stop. It would have had to been like all the way. I don't know. You could technically say this is like a swing right here, if you really wanted to get cute with it, but there really wasn't like a really clear swing. This is like just a big move down sideways. So it wasn't super clear where you even would have put your stop loss for this one. But if you would have taken it, you could use a tag like imbalance minus or something like that and collect data to see like, are those really lower probability? In which case you may or may not want to exclude them. So missed out on that win, but coming into the end of the session, so we'll go to next day. And now we'll take a look uptrend pretty clearly. Let's see. We have broken structure to the downside and got a retest. So I do think this is a valid trade. So we obviously are generally in a clear uptrend, but we just broke structure. Again, he uses the bodies. So we've broken this low right here. We've made higher highs and higher lows. Now we have a lower low. So I do think this retest right here could be valid. We don't have, like within this recent move, there is, a Nowick above that still could drop price higher, but no like major fair value gaps. We've already kind of filled this imbalance, so could be a good reason to take. We'll take a look at some support and resistance as well, just to kind of show you guys how I would mark that out. I'd probably just draw like kind of something right here, and again we had a little bit of reactions here on both sides. So there's another one where kind of support and resistance acting in favor of our trade. Could be an added confluence, but we'll see if we need to adjust this one. So swing high right here, 8.6, we'll add 3 pips, so 11.6, simple math. And then where's our 1-to-1 at? So our 1-to-1 is pretty much right back into the support zone. I probably wouldn't modify this specific case. I did mention in the from some of his videos, there are certain cases where he would tighten up his stop loss. So say for example, that our swing high was a little bit higher. So we were all the way up here in our 1-to-1, we had to cut through this kind of support zone. In this specific case, he would probably intentionally try and tighten up the stop loss so that he didn't have to cut through this support and resistance zone. But I think we're fine with where we have it, and we'll just say we do have actually a support and resistance kind of added confluence in this case. So again, I'll use SR plus to kind of track that, and we'll see what happens in this case. All right, unfortunately got a loss. So it's definitely not 100% win rate, but we'll go to next session and see what else we got. All right, so clear downtrend. We do have some bullish Nowick candles. This was formed at a swing point, so nothing really interested in taking yet. Again, not looking to take longs because the structure is showing downside until we kind of, okay, now we have shifted to the upside. And yes, like these would have worked in hindsight, but yeah, you definitely want to stick to this structure is kind of the way he trades it. But I do think this could be a valid trade right here. So we've broken to the upside, formed a higher high here. Our stop loss is going to be pretty far below, like using this swing low all the way down here. So what was this? 18.7 pips is pretty far away. So 21.7s with our 3 pip buffer. 1-to-1 is kind of breaking this high. So maybe a little lower probability just because how big this move is. And this is another thing you could potentially optimize over time. Like, there may be statistically lower probability moves if your stop loss is greater than, I don't know, 15 pips or something like that. It's something you can also like export the data, throw it in AI or something and say, help me analyze some additional things like, should I not take trades if the stop loss is bigger than, X or whatever. But we'll give it a shot. We do have kind of the elements in play here. The only other thing that I just want to check is I do think we potentially have some support and resistance against this trade. So pretty far history, getting some reactions all around this kind of area. You see price reacting upside and downside kind of along this way. So this is a trade that I would personally tag as like SR minus, where we have support and resistance kind of against the trade. And when we get a large sample size of data, we may want to just take out these trades entirely because they're lower probability. So we'll take it. I'll kind of show you guys. I'd use just support and resistance against this trade, and we'll see what happens. Could be win or loss. In this case, it's a big stop loss. So holding it out, finally got a win. So it did work out, but like look at this reaction that we got to this initial support and resistance. We really had to fight to kind of come back up and get through it. We eventually got through it because of our generous stop loss in this case, but over time we may see with collecting more data, we may want to filter out some of these trades because we're already kind of fighting against something pretty much immediately. But it worked out in this case. So go to the next session. Let's see. What do you guys think of this entry model so far? Is it pretty simple? Are the invalidations too complex? Curious what you guys think about it so far. So downtrend right here. We do have a Nowick. We have a fair value gap plus Nowick above, but that would be where our stop loss would be. So I think we could take this. We've definitely broken structure to the downside. Let's see if we get a retest. So we have kind of two Nowick candles back to back. Obviously we retested this one, but this is where it's it, and this is something you can play around with. It honestly hasn't happened too much in my testing. You could either number one, as he does in his video, take a trade here, stop at swing high, go for your 1-to-1 with this, and then take another trade at this, and you could like basically go half risk on each of these. So you're kind of averaging into them. Obviously, if you're trading with lot sizes, like if you're trading 10 lots, go 5 lots in each or whatever. But for backtesting, you could either break it up that way. It's gonna skew your analytics a little bit if you're kind of breaking trades up. So if you wanted to simplify it, you could also just like take the kind of midpoint and just enter at that point. So that's honestly probably what I would do, just to keep it as a single trade and make your lives a little easier. Neither of these was a higher time frame candle. Like it was 115 and 145, so neither of them were aligned with M30 or 1 hour. So that's probably what I would do. So I'll go back one more candle. We'll enter on the retest of this midpoint. Stop loss is the swing high, 8.2. So go 11.2 right here. Go for our 1-to-1. I don't think we have any confluences. We're pretty high up here. We do have actually, we have a Nowick in our favor and an imbalance in our favor. So this is probably one that I would tag with that like factor 1, where we have an imbalance in our favor. I was using this factor 1 tag, but again, you could use kind of imbalance plus if you wanted. I do think we do have some added confluence for that. And yeah, super nice TP, just using kind of split the difference between these two levels and got tapped in for that. So you see, yeah, Wally says he likes the strategy, but he prefers M5. You can test it at M5. You may get some higher frequency, maybe a little lower win rates, but you could definitely see if it works well on M5. He just personally prefers to trade it on M15. Another thing, obviously, with lower time frame on Forex, you do need to be more aware of spreads. M5 is maybe okay, but if you have kind of a standard spread broker that you're trading on, the lower time frame you go, the more impactful the spreads become. So it's just something to be aware of. Obviously, with M15, like the spreads don't really matter too much relative to the distance for our kind of stop loss and take profit. So could potentially still have another trade. We'll see if anything else forms. We did shift to the upside now, but this was at a swing point. Again, we're not taking these kind of structural swings. We did get a nice reaction from it, but where are you going to put your stop loss if this is the swing high? So there just wouldn't be a trade there. And yeah, probably just that one trade, one and done for the session. We'll see if we can get one more trade, and then I'll show you guys kind of the aggregated analytics that I got from my own testing, plus a little bit that we got through today. So what do we have? Downtrend, uptrend. Most recent structure using the bodies, kind of swing low, swing high. We broke down from this low, so I think this level here could potentially be a good short for us. Let's see, invalidations. We've already filled fair value gaps, but we do have quite a lot of Nowicks above, but using our, I don't know, fair value gap plus Nowicks, I think we have the green light to take this trade. We do have a strict structural shift to the downside. So we'll use this, I don't know, most recent swing high. If you wanted, you could use this high here, but this is like the most recent swing high. So 1.5, we'll add 3 pips to this, so 4.5. So the 3 pip buffer gives us a little bit of breathing room. Going for a 1-to-1 R. We'll see what happens with this one. This will be our last trade. I guess before I take it, any confluences, support and resistance. We do have like a bit of a zone here that we've been reacting to on both sides. It's not really protected. Like our stop loss, if our stop loss was like on the other side of it, I would say we had that confluence, but it's not really protecting us in this case. It's just kind of around where our level is. So I wouldn't probably add an additional confluence. We do have some Nowicks in our favor, but also against. So probably just wouldn't tag this one. Let's see what happens. So immediately yeeted through all of it. Unfortunately, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of like this is like trendline liquidity. It's also we have a lot of Nowicks to the upside. So when you have clear draws past your stop loss, the trades are just gonna be a little lower probability, and yeah, just kind of cut through those really quick. So I think that's probably all we're gonna do. We'll take a look at some analytics now. I've obviously tested this quite a bit myself. We only got through like 6 trades today. Obviously, taking our time to explain everything, go slowly through. I do think I'll probably try and do another video for you guys with a little higher sample size. But I did some testing myself as well. So we'll go ahead and kind of aggregate everything and show you guys, at least with a little better sample size, kind of what I was seeing testing this out. So I like to use the FX replay strategies and kind of tie my sessions to the same strategy. So I've tested kind of a trending market, ranging market, and recent price action, as well as this kind of random period in 2022 that someone gave me. So we'll kind of see the analytics for all of these. So Bard, it's right here. So for all the testing that I did between today and also personal, not his 90, he's claimed like 85, 90% win rate in some of his videos, 88% win rate. I'm not getting 88%, so that may be a little bit of clickbait, but still 70% win rate with what I was seeing. Pretty solid profit factor, 2.26. We can look at some of these specific sessions that I tested to kind of see, okay, these are the periods I tested. I had this kind of trending period back in April 2024 that did pretty well. This ranging market where price was pretty choppy, I think it was pretty flat. Maybe got like 2R in the month, just slightly up, but definitely a little lower win rate. And then recently in May, a little more trending price action, a little kind of pockets of chop, but this actually performed pretty well too. So over all of the testing I did, 70% win rates, 2.26 profit factor. Obviously some opportunities to optimize with our tags still. Seems like a decent base model that you guys could definitely test out and see like if it continues to work well over time. We can look at the RR simulator that you guys were asking about. So we were obviously going for 1-to-1s, and 0.97s, pretty similar to the 1R. The RR simulator doesn't really factor in spreads, so that's probably the main difference here. We probably had a few trades that barely wicked this out with the spread that the RR simulator is just not like quite factoring in. But yeah, 1-to-1 is saying it's the best kind of result that we can get, so it's not suggesting to change that. But let's look at some tags, because I do think that's going to be important. So a few things that we tagged were the support and resistance being in favor of the trade. So we'll look at those first. So 40 trades, we had 11 of them that had support and resistance in favor, and we went up 20% in probability right away. So this is where I think if you have that added confluence of, okay, we have my stop losses protected by a support and resistance level, those are probably going to be kind of your A+ setups for this, where you may even want to consider risking a little more if you continue to see this over a large sample size. I didn't have a ton of trades with that kind of factor 1 confluence where we had an imbalance in favor of the trade, but those as well were also pretty good. I think we added like 4 more trades and still pretty high win rate. So when you have added confluences, obviously improves the results, and then vice versa. If you have confluences against the trade, which was our SR minus, where we had to cut through support and resistance to get to our take profit, look at that. Like, shouldn't even be taking these trades based on the days. Again, only 8 trades. You would want to validate this over a large sample size. Maybe you have 20, 30 plus of these kind of negative confluence trades to confirm, okay, this really isn't, it shouldn't be taking. But if we literally just eliminate those from our data sets, you'll be able to see the results improve pretty significantly. Now we're close to 78%, still not 88, 90%, but quite a bit better. Profit factor over 3 now. So this is like, a big difference if we filter out kind of the trades where we were having to cut through support and resistance. And so, yeah, I would say, like, continue to test yourself, but that does seem like a very simple optimization. Just if you notice there's a trade where we're really kind of bumping up against some support and resistance for the trade, it might be better just to also have an invalidation for that, and you can bump up your win rate too. But we'll clear that out and take a look at the kind of rest of the analytics, see if there's any other insights. We obviously had a pretty high win rate, so 5 win streak, 2 loss streak. Average hold duration was 4 hours. I think there were a few outliers that had to be hold, for like a long time. So maybe a little lower that on, if you exclude some outliers, but it's obviously M15, so it's going to take a while for some of the trades to play out. We were kind of predominantly taking trades in London, but I think we had one trade that snuck through for New York. So you're not really getting any insights. But if you want to test this over a larger window, this is where you can use the performance by session to see, okay, like I could trade late Asia, but maybe the performance isn't as good, or I could trade kind of London plus New York, but maybe London's just better. Like, you can play around with these and really find the pockets of time that are better for it. Same thing with performance by hour. If you're seeing that, it really drops off kind of late London, maybe you just trade the first few hours of London. But as you get larger sample size, you'll be able to get good insights on that. Same thing with performance by day. Maybe there's certain days that the strategy just doesn't do quite as well. But yeah, overall, like, we did have a couple pockets of relatively flat months. I think these didn't have a whole lot of trades. But 8R, 6R, 1R, like for a single pair, this is actually pretty good. And again, if you stack a watch list of 3 to 5 pairs and each pair is doing 1 to 5R a month, like that could be pretty good over the course of the year. So yeah, definitely seems like a strategy you guys could test out and see if it's something that you enjoy. With the simple entry model, I do think it's on the easier end. The most complex part of it is obviously all of the invalidations that you may want to like have a checklist when you're kind of starting out and like say, okay, this is a potential trade. Let's kind of check off these invalidations just to like kind of get it into your brain, all the things to look for, because there are quite a few invalidations that you want to look for. But yeah, I guess like the only other thing I wanted to mention, I know one of you guys were asking about like negative risk to reward. Within the risk to reward simulator, you can come in here and add like 0.7. We could add 0.8. We could add 0.9. Let's see like if even going for a little like negative RR improves our results. In this case, obviously, negative RR increases your win rate usually. And in this case, it actually shows that the 0.9R trades were slightly better than 1R. So you could really play around with this, fine tune if you're really trying to find the most optimal level. But again, doesn't include spreads. So 1R may just be simpler. That's what Bard uses. He's been trading it, so honestly, not a huge difference. might be better just to stick to 1R. But you can see the results for negative RR here as well. And pretty soon we will also have a stop loss simulator for you guys. I'm really excited for that to release. It's with the design team right now. But we're going to be able to help you guys simulate adjustments to your stop losses soon, which I think is going to be a really cool tool for you guys as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you guys want to test it out, I definitely encourage you to join the Discord, whether it's finding other people that are testing it, asking questions. Hey, like, is this a valid trade that I took? Trying to learn the strategy. Obviously, we have the custom indicators support. If you guys are trying to add more custom indicators, encourage you guys to join the Discord. We have a lot of good community members in there. But yeah, with that, we'll wrap it up. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you later, everyone. Catch you later. Bye.